Hello and welcome to BQ Prime. You're watching IPO Adda. The company in focus today is Concord Biotech. The company is coming out with its IPO on August 4th with the price band of 705 to 741. It's an OFS for 2.09 crore shares. And the selling shareholder is Helix Investment, one of the investors in the company, amounting to nearly 1,550 crores. The company is valued at over 7,700 crores at the upper end of the price band. And joining me today is Ankur Vaid, Joint Managing Director and CEO, and Lalit Sethi, who is the CFO of the company. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on BQ Prime. To start with, Mr. Vaid, give me a sense of it's primarily an OFS where one of the investors which holds 20% stake in the company is exiting. Does a company not require any capital for its growth going forward?
In this transaction, basically, this is a complete OFS, and as such, we are not having any kind of a primary issue at this point of time.
Okay, and you don't need any capital also going forward, Mr. Vaid?
Yeah, so I think we don't need any capital because we have built in sufficient capacities at our end, whether it is the API or the finished formulation for the future growth. So at this point of time, we do not require any additional capital in the company.
Give us a sense of your business, how it looks, and the entire business model as such. You are into API manufacturing and formulations, especially into immunosuppressants and oncology based drugs. But what is the kind of business model that you have? Is it completely domestic or international, and how do you sell your APIs?
So I think we are into the manufacturing of fermentation and semi-synthetic APIs. And globally, there are very few companies in this space of fermentation products. And I would say Concord in that way is quite uniquely positioned. In terms of our therapeutic areas that we are present in, we are there in the immunosuppressants, oncology, anti-infectives, and antifungal. And these are very complex niche fermentation APIs. We are present in over 70 plus countries and are catering to more than 200 plus customers across different geographies. Our clients are there in India, US, LATAM, Japan. So we are working with all the major leading companies across different geographies to cater to their requirements on such kind of niche fermentation API products.
Mm-hmm. Give me a sense of your raw material security, which is there, because the top three suppliers account for nearly 49.2%, and top 10 represents nearly 81.45%. How are you securing your raw materials going forward?
So most of the raw materials that are typically used in the fermentation industry are the agro-based products, because typically, in the fermentation space, you're working with living microorganisms, and typically they need basic carbon, nitrogen, oxygen sources which are readily available in the agro-based products. So, which again is India is very rich in this. So, our major raw materials are very basic raw materials, and that is something that we procure locally.
And what about your dependence on China?
So we are a fully integrated company, and we have zero dependency on China in terms of the requirements. We have sufficient capacity because, as I mentioned, that in fermentation you require the basic raw materials which are more agro-based, and that's something that we procure from India only. Our dependency going forward is I would say almost nil dependency.
Mm-hmm. Give me a sense of your EBITDA margin, Mr. Sethi. Roughly around 40% that in FY23 for you. Is there a scope to increase these margins? What kind of headwinds do you see, or tailwinds that you see to push these margins higher?
No, in last financial year, when we have made the sale of around 853 crores, our EBITDA margin have been 40.45, means around 41%. And this has been the trend in the past also. Historically also, we were operating at the same kind of an EBITDA margin. So going forward also, I don't see any kind of a challenge in achieving at these kind of an EBITDA margin. The one thing more I just wish to mention, that since the capacities has been expanded already, so both with respect to the API and the formulations, so rather it's going to be further improved as and when the capacity gets ramped up.
Mhm. Give me a sense of your exports, because you do export to other countries. I think US, if I'm not wrong, 17.6% of your revenues come from US, and nearly 32% comes from rest of the world. Uh, what is the kind of client profile that you have in these countries?
So as I mentioned that we are working with all the major global uh, pharmaceutical companies, and they are market leaders in these kind of products. Be it Japan or US or Latin America, we have a very diverse customer base that we are working with.
For a company like yours, which supplies APIs to major drug manufacturers for their formulations or tablets or injections, whatever, one of the key things to watch out for is the kind of drug pipeline that is coming in, drugs which are in the clinical trials, drugs which are, pending approvals. So, can you give us a sense of what is the kind of pipeline that you have, which are of drugs which are in clinical trials or pending approvals? Because those are the things which are going to translate into orders for you when you go move forward.
Okay, so we work mostly in the generic space, and most of our APIs are generic APIs. However, we have a very strong R&D, and close to around 150 people are working in the R&D department. And we do work on certain niche products which are under patent, and we are developing non-infringing processes for such kind of APIs to support our end customers, which are the formulation partners on their Para 4 launches.
Okay, so how many of that launches are in the pipeline?
So we have quite a few. So we have a good blend of generic APIs as well as patented APIs that are there in the pipeline.
Will you be able to give us quantify that, because that would help give us a sense of the milestones that your company would, which the street would like to watch out for?
So maybe I won't be able to share the exact number of molecules at this point because, again, in fermentation, it can take at times. It's a very complex process. So at times it could be, maybe in the next 1 or 2 years' time that you look at these opportunities. But maybe I may not be able to share the exact number at this point of time.
But you will have those opportunities on a yearly basis going forward.
That's correct.
Okay, give me a sense of your customer profile as well. Top, if I'm not wrong, nearly 33.5% of your revenue comes from top 5 customers in the API space. Where are these customers located, and what kind of relationship that you have had with them in the past?
So we've had very strong relationships with them, and our relationship with our top 5 customers would be anywhere ranging from, say, 10 to 12 years. These customers are primarily based out of India, US, and Europe. So as I mentioned earlier, that our customer base is quite diverse. And over the years, what we have done is that as we have kept on increasing our product portfolio, we have been working with our set of customers more and more in terms of developing a basket of products to cater to their needs. So maybe for some of our customers, we would have started with one product, and at this point of time, maybe working with them on 8 to 9 products. So that's how we have grown our relationship with our customers. And this is something not only about the top 10 customers, but across the diverse customer base that we have.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Sethi, give me a sense of the capacity utilization, because I was looking at some of the numbers. Your formulation facility capacity has been very low, at 9.9% in FY23. at such a low capacity, what is the kind of outlook you have for to increase the capacity in these
No,
facilities?
basically, in 2023, we added the capacities, and that is why the actual capacity utilization is looking at a lower side. Our capacity in 2022 was 503 million units, which has been increased to 802 million. So, in terms of overall volume, there is an increase, but in terms of percentages, it is looking like at a moderated level. Another thing with the, for example, for unit number three, wherein which we have recently commissioned in financial year 2020, 2021, there the capacity utilization is around 32%. And in unit number one, Dholka facility, which is operating at an optimum capacity of around 75%.
Hmm. Is there a guide map to how the capacity can be increased further from here?
Yes, if you see that the Unit 3 at Limbasi, which has been recently approved by the US FDA without any observation, without basically 0483, is likely to cater to the global market now, the regulated market now, which will also help in ramping up the capacities at Unit 3.
Okay, give me a sense of you have a PLI for drug manufacturing. How's that doing? And have you been able to fully work on the capacity there in that unit to get the benefits?
Yes, as far as the eligibility criteria for availing the benefits under PLI was concerned, is about the capital expenditure, which we have already done. It's more than what the minimum requirement under the scheme was there. So it is now we had also made an application. We are also working with the government of India for the PLI benefits. This financial year also we had made an application for our eligibility, which is based on the incremental revenue. And we have also accounted for around 15.91 crores of rupees in the financial year 2023 for PLI benefits.
And are you working full capacity in those units to get the entire value of subsidy?
Basically, the requirement was is under the PLI scheme is on the incremental revenue, which we are able to make much more than what our allocation by the government has been done.
Okay.
So there is no problem as far as the eligibility of claiming those benefits are there.
But just to add that, we continue to develop molecules and APIs in the fermentation space to make India more Atmanirbhar in the area of fermentation products. Whether they are covered under the PLI scheme or not is not important to us. I think it is more about in terms of how we can make India more Atmanirbhar. So while, as Lalit mentioned, that we are meeting all the criterias to comply with the PLI scheme, but I think our roadmap is that how we can build in more molecules in this space.
So Vaid, if I look at your sales growth, 17.6% CAGR between 21 and 23, is that the kind of growth that you expect to continue going forward as well, or there is going to be a glide upwards as well as the capacity increases? Capacity utilization increases, basically.
Sure. So I think our historical growth has been coming from the Unit 1 and the Unit 2, which is the first API plant and the formulation facility that we have. And we have recently built up the new fermentation API facility, which has 800 meter cube of capacity vis-a-vis the 450 meter cube that we have at Unit 1. And we are also setting up the new injectable plant, which should be ready by the end of this calendar year. So we have built significant growth levers at our end at Concord, which would help us ensure that we have better growth in terms of how compared to the historical performance that we've had.
Just to get a perspective, sir, your current revenue base is around 853 in FY23. With all the capacities that come into being, and if they're fully utilized or at least 80% utilized at every manufacturing facility, what could be the potential revenue that you can get from these facilities?
Normally, if you look at the industry data, the fermentation kind of a companies in the biotechnology space are getting the asset turn of around 2.5 to 3. So with the asset base of let's say 800 crores, we can expect the same kind of an asset turn.
Okay. My final question to you is that you are into the US market, which is a very competitive market. Pricing issue is one of the biggest challenges there, because in the last 1.5 years we have seen a lot of price erosion coming in, as a result of it, which consolidation and price competitiveness is coming in. What kind of pressure do you see on pricing of your APIs, because it will eventually flow back to you as pricing gets eroded in the US and other markets?
Yes, so I think Concord has always continued to support its customers in terms of providing them the most competitive pricing with the highest quality products. And when we talk about Concord's leadership position in the API space, that is a function of how our customers have grown their market share in the formulation space. So we are fully committed to support our customers there in terms of high quality products at competitive pricing. And in whenever there is any pressure that comes, I think the way to mitigate that is through continuously investing in the R&D for our existing products as well as our pipeline products.
Mr. Sethi, final question to you. Working capital days 229, quite high for your company. Means, is there a way you can bring it down to below 6 months?
It's basically very, very peculiar to the industry wherein we are operating. Basically, in fermentation industry, the production cycle is a little bit more as compared to any chemical synthesis kind of companies. So therefore, the normally working capital days are relatively higher as compared to the other industries. So if you look at our production process itself takes about 60 to 65 days to complete both upstreaming and downstreaming. And then since there are number of fermentation, we have a flexible design of the plants. So there is so much of batches which keeps on going on. So that's the reason that we need to have some higher working capital because the process is more.
And is there a order book position that you maintain as well?
So we have a very healthy order book position, and we kind of work. So our production plannings are such that we are able to meet the requirements.
What will be the build to book ratio?
So again, it's quite flexible because it's not usually a long-term agreement that we have. It's mostly, as I mentioned, that we have a very strong relationship with customers. So it is very flexible at times, but we do understand the needs of the customers which are there and kind of then build on that inventory so that even within a shorter period of time, we can support to them for their requirements.
Gentlemen, it was a pleasure talking to you today. The Concord Biotech IPO opens on August 4th, closes on August 8th, price between 705 to 741. It's a OFS of 2.09 crore shares, valued at 1550 crores. And that upper band gives the company a value of nearly 7,752 crores. You're watching IPO Adda. Thank you for watching.